Hi guys, Lefty again. Alright, this video is about things I've spoken about in the past. In the first video I explained a lot of the same issues you see in a lot of comics, mainly superhero comics. And then later in the next three videos I kept talking about certain issues with particular ones: Batman, Wolverine, and Spider-Man. And it keeps going back to a certain thing that I feel we must touch upon: the reader base. I spoke out specifically against it in the last video, but I need to really get into it. Comic books, just like any other medium that sells to make money, its main goal is to make money. This isn't hard. And what makes money is what's most popular, what your readers will want to read the most of. Well, readers generally are young, or at least start off that way, and will like something and just like it for that, what it is. Therefore, any form of change or growth or alteration in any way alters what they like about the thing, and therefore they dislike it initially. Absolutely, completely, even though it might be a minute issue that doesn't change the character at all, really, if you think about it, but they will rage against it so hard, and then the company will lose sales because the reader base that would typically purchase it isn't purchasing it anymore. And unless they are bringing in new readers with these changes, odds are they have to rely on that old fan base, which means they have to pander to them. That being said, it's behoot on the companies, particularly the writers, to come up with new and interesting stories that challenge the reader. Now the writers have to write that way, and it's up to the company to have the balls to let them do it, because ultimately the company will have to make a decision whether to keep pandering to the readers that don't want any change, or let the character grow and let the writers do what they need to do to expand the character and potentially bring in more sales. Potentially. So normally the companies will go with a safe bet and just pander to the old fan base, allowing for minute changes and gradual growth. And this is an issue, and this is something as a comic book reader I've noticed in myself more than a few times. And you know, when I first realized it, I was rather disappointed in myself. And then I grew, but I didn't grow. I just realized I was being a dumbass and just stopped being one. Like, example, it's been causing a lot of controversy. Changing the character's race. No, this is not a big issue. Initially, when I first saw stuff like this, like Heimdall, the Human Torch, I was like, what? No. The character is this, therefore the character must be this. Why are you changing it to this? It took me far longer than it definitely should have to realize, well, just because the character is a different race doesn't necessarily mean anything that happened before is any particularly different. Just change the skin tone. Everything else can still happen exactly as the same. The skin tone means nothing. Why am I getting upset about this? And I realize that's a lot of the issues that happen with any type of comic book reader about any type of change in their favorite comic. If you like Superman and he loses to someone, and this has happened repeatedly, whenever he lost the fight, the next few issues there was a huge dip in sales because Superman must not lose. He's the most powerful character. If you ever watch my videos, you know my opinion about Superman, but let's not get into that. Same thing with Batman. If Batman ever been put in a position where he absolutely had to kill or not save someone, again, issues drop. Or if Spider-Man became a little bit more serious and was less snarky and became a more mature character, and you've seen this a few times, a very few times, but you have seen it. Again, sales drop off because we as readers like what we like. We don't want change, which is sad. I mean, I personally want change, but I'm not the majority. Most of us like what we like. And as a result, the comics and the characters don't change. Now, would this be an issue if they were already grown, advanced stories meant for adults, which they are now, but bear in mind, a lot of these characters are over 50 years old. And a lot of the people who've been reading the stuff have been, well, aren't 50. And the reason for that is it's generally pointed towards a younger audience. Not so much anymore. Not even close. But they all started off that way. Which means the gradual change to get to the reading level it is now took over 50 years for a lot of these stories. Jesus. We are so resistant to change that it took 50 years for something that was targeted towards children to be acceptable to teenagers and young adults. I don't read a lot of stories that you can read like as a, how do I put this? Like, there are a few great issues, great arcs, like within Batman, Hush, The Killing Joke, stuff like that, that's adult reading level. But then you go to the next few arcs where it's not so much. It's like, it's not exactly kid stuff, but it's not like higher reading, mature storytelling type deal. It's, alright, who did something stupid to piss off Batman, and let's go hunt him down and beat him up. And a lot of the comic books play out that way. So it's our fault as readers that comic books haven't grown and changed. Now, with this whole push in the whole entertainment industry, especially in the movies, and now the growth onto television and Netflix and the like, it's becoming more accepted. It's becoming more popular than ever. So I hope that this larger base for readers and such will inspire readers to go the extra mile and companies to take the chance to write new stories, to change things, to allow existing characters to grow beyond what they were and have been for decades. But it all ultimately comes down to us. If we're not going to purchase a comic because there's one minute change that doesn't really affect the character, but we still have issues with, well, you're not being a good fan that way. I'm a Giants fan. I'm currently visiting a friend in Keeling, Texas. I'm in Texas. There's more stars here than I have seen here ever. Freaking Cowboy fans. And I wouldn't be a fan if I wasn't wearing this. But how do I put this? If you're a fan of a character, you're a fan of the character because who the character is. Now, if the character changes and grows to something different than what you originally knew, you can grow to dislike what they've grown into, but the character itself, where it came from, the story should have been enough to keep you hooked. Now, unless it's a complete heel turn, like Spider-Man becoming an ultra serious character, never makes a joke, doesn't like people making jokes, doesn't really go out crime fighting, just stays in and researches all day. That would be a serious turn. That would be something that would understandably make people go away because they don't want to see that to their favorite character. But for that character to become more accepting of help offered, not just all help he personally seeks out, for that character to stay out of high school, please, for that character to, I don't know, actually have a child. I mean, I know in one alternate universe we've seen that already, but it's not part of the main continuity, so he doesn't have kids yet. He's been with plenty of women. He's been with plenty of characters that loved him and he loved them, and he's been married how many times now? You know, you that aspect, that level of growth, fatherhood, how that affects him as a superhero, how that affects him as a person, period. That'd be a very interesting and great place to go, and would be perfect if it was, something that he's stuck with, that we as readers are stuck with, because it's a mainstay part of the story. Therefore, make it part of the continuity of the main universe. This way it has to happen. But we haven't seen that, and we likely won't see that because most of the people who enjoy the character like him as he is. Now, there might be a subset of people like me who would like to see something like that, see him grow, but because we're not the majority, company won't take the risk. And if the company's not going to take the risk, why will the writers push for it? So this whole situation is just very disappointing, and now that I know about it and realize it, I don't want to know about it. I don't want to realize it. I want to go back to being an idiot. I want to go back to being that baby that I hate right now. You can't change a thing. Now, this isn't to say that the majority of comic book readers are bad people or immature. That's wrong. I know I may have given that impression during this whole thing because, I'm ranting about something I dislike. Therefore, I'm going to be belligerent about it. But no, like, we like certain characters a certain way because those characters relate to us a certain way. They give us something. Like, Spider-Man's one of my favorite characters because of who he was. He was a kid. When I first started reading him, I was a kid. Hell, I was younger than the character itself. There were a lot of connections, personal things about the character that I saw in him, that I saw in myself. Those things are very important to me, and therefore seeing that and having that threatened to be taken away bothers me. And that could be connected to anyone who reads a comic, who connects with a certain character or likes a certain thing. There's something about that character that connects to them, and the threat of change, of taking that away, will affect them, and therefore they will respond accordingly, even if it's in a not so constructive manner. But at the same time, because I am going into my 30s soon, and I read this character as a kid and connected to him as a kid, I've grown and changed as a person. I am now getting older. I would like to see this character get older with me to a degree. I want to see his level of maturity, his level of understanding, and his, look on life actually change. It doesn't have to change in a very large, substantial way, just in a subtle way. Like, I always knew the world wasn't as pleasant and chipper as some of the people around me seemed to think it was. I always thought I was kind of cynical. Now, as an adult, I know I wasn't just being cynical. It was true. The world's not always a great place. Now, at the same time, I've grown to realize that there's also a lot of good, and that, there's a lot of things I can do to make the world around me in particular better. I can't see similar growth. That's similar growth in my favorite comic book character that has been around a lot longer than I have, I would like to keep that connection. I would like to see the character grow, but he's not being allowed to because of other readers, because of a larger fan base who don't want to lose that initial connection they had with whatever it was they connected with. And I can't begrudge them for it as a person, but as a reader, I can certainly begrudge them because you're essentially taking away something from me because you don't want something to change. But then again, me wanting something to change is taking something away from you that you don't want to change. All right, we're over 15 minutes now, so we're gonna have to drop this video. All right. Okay. I've done a bunch of these videos already. I'm about to
post all 4 of them or 5 of them. So some comments, please. Let's try a discussion going on some of this.
Bye.